Welcome to Divine Energy. Thank you very much for subscribing, liking, and spreading the word. And comment. Add your comments down below. I want to hear from you. If there's something you'd like me to talk about, just put it in the comments and I'll be happy to respond. Hi, I'm Hollis, and this is Bright Hawk.
Hi there.
And I am inspired to start sharing some of the wisdom that I've gathered about astrology for a lot of reasons. And one of the main one is that I find that knowing astrology, knowing your own personal astrology, even if you're not like a professional astrologer or whatever, if you just know your own personal astrology, it will be easier for you to navigate life. And in fact, I say that your astrology chart is a guide to your life. It is literally a guide to your life. And if we were to pay attention to our transits, meaning, what's a transit, Hollis? That's when the planet is moving over a certain spot, a certain point in the sky that might aspect some things in your chart. It might have a certain mathematical calculation of how many degrees it's apart from each other. I know it sounds really complicated, but when you just take it one step at a time, it's actually easier to comprehend. So the first thing that I want to try to simplify, help us understand, and first thing I wanted to sort of shoot off this astrology thing with is Mercury. Mercury, the planet. Why? Well, first of all, I can, relate to the planet of Mercury, because Mercury is known for being a little bit of like a gender bend. In fact, the symbol kind of looks like, the symbol for androgyny, right? You do know what that is, right? Okay, well, you should look it up. If you don't, go look it up and go look up like the Mercury symbol and the symbol for non-binary, and you'll be kind of surprised. They're very similar. And on top of that, we also have the experience that Mercury tends to be a little bit gender bend in their history, as well as a little bit chaotic. And most non-binary people can relate to feeling chaotic in the world. It doesn't mean that we are chaotic or that we're bad or something. It just means that by our presence, we kind of stir the pot a little bit. But wait a minute, Hollis, and I'm like, but stirring the pot, it's not always a bad thing. And in fact, sometimes healing comes from it. And couldn't it be possible that Mercury's gender bend, just like our gender bend, is helping to heal humanity through one of the things that separates us the most, which is gender, masculine and feminine. So it separates us, right? When our children are born and we label them as masculine and feminine, it creates an otherness that starts at birth and continues on and on and on. And that's why we sometimes have, assault and, things that none of us are proud of humanity for doing. So I want to offer that, number one, that the chaos of trying to stir the pot of saying maybe we get away from these gender binaries because they're actually causing a separation in our humanity, that actual stirring of the pot is actually a healing modality. And sometimes I think that's what Mercury does. That's just kind of Mercury's way. So a couple of things. If you want to know about how Mercury retrograde affects you or how Mercury plays a role in your chart, take a look. take a look and find out where Mercury is in your chart. You can get a free chart all kinds of places online. And all you have to do is, since you already looked up the Mercury symbol that kind of looks like non-binary, you can easily just find that symbol in your chart, and it will be in a certain triangular piece of the pie, if you will, and that's called a house. And there will be a zodiac sign associated with it. And that'll tell us a lot about how Mercury works in your natal chart. And if you have Mercury retrograde, you're probably going to experience Mercury retrograde in a little bit of a different way. And since I personally have had Mercury play a strong part in my chart, that I actually thought it would be interesting to have two of us here talking about our experience with Mercury retrograde.
Well, Mercury retrogrades 3 to 4 times every year. So a lot of us are born with Mercury retrograde in our charts.
It
Not
was
everybody.
25%.
Yeah.
25%.
There you go.
Yeah, I looked it up. Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about it, all of us are affected by all of the planets. And Mercury rules communication. And you think of Mercury, you think of fleet-footed, you know, the winged feet, fleet-footed Mercury. Well, when Mercury goes retrograde, which happens 3 to 4 times a year, those of us who are retrograde, born with that in our chart, it's as if we come back to the energy that's familiar and comfortable for us. And so instead of it feeling like a scary thing, it can actually be an opportunity to review, to reestablish what is important to you, to re-examine values or relationships, anything that has a re in front of it. That's what Mercury retrograde helps us do. You know, when we think about Mercury retrograde, it's not that it actually goes backwards. It's that our picture of it looks like it's going backwards, right? And so when Mercury goes retrograde, it happens for about 3 weeks. And there's a shadow period where 2 weeks before, on either side, it's tracing that same path. And so those times, especially as we're going into the retrograde and coming out, those shadow periods tend to be very important, because that's when people collectively kind of notice a collective bump in the road, right? Whoomp. And like, why aren't things working? Why does it feel chaotic, or what have you? And those are moments to just sort of check in. And it's an opportunity, really. And the more I've learned about astrology, the more I've learned how to surf it, how to understand, oh, this is this feeling I'm having, it's about the collective. It's not about me. There's something working out here. Hold on, breathe, do whatever practice makes sense for you so that you're not whipped up into chaos, that you don't feel knocked off your axle. And there's a chance for you to go, oh, I see. This is a chance for me to, maybe it's not a time to launch projects, but maybe a chance to review projects. One of the astrologers I've heard say, if you understand the weather, you know which day is a good day for the beach, and, not to head to the beach with your shorts and umbrella, your shorts and tank top when it's going to rain and you need an umbrella. So knowing the weather, knowing how to ride it and surf with it, and that we're all in it together. The planets affect all of us, whether you acknowledge it or not. And the more sensitive and aware you become, the more fun the ride becomes, I think.
Yeah, well, and then what can happen, I also, so I've spent most of my life having pretty kind of nuts Mercury retrogrades. Things usually break, or I communicate messed up, or I don't know. It could be tons of things. So I do have a great example. When last Mercury retrograde, I realized halfway through that I had started a D&D group in a Mercury retrograde. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh no. And I was like, what compelled me to do that so deeply? I mean, I had been thinking about it before the Mercury retrograde, but now here we are in the middle of Mercury retrograde, and I'm starting a group, communicating with people, and oh boy. And I was really concerned. And the group was like, oh, like 7 people came out of the woodwork. I had more, but I was like, no, I can only handle so many at once. So I had 7 people, which is actually a lot for a game. And, and I was like, I was pretty convinced, oh, this group is going to fall apart. This isn't going to last. Oh my gosh. You'll probably have half of them back out by the time Mercury's done being in retrograde. And by the time Mercury goes forward, these people will be quitting. Well, I was delightfully surprised, but also faced with a little bit of a dilemma as the DM, because 7 people is actually a little too many people. But everybody loves playing the game, and I've managed to figure out now, while Mercury was in retrograde, how to deal with too many players. And I'll tell you, I was really surprised that even all this time, it's been a while now, people have not
Nobody's dropped out.
Some people, and I wondered, I mean, some people have missed, but like occasionally, it's not like, and I will say though that I wondered when I was thinking about this, because it actually turned out really well, was it because you were involved?
The Mercury retrograde balancer.
But then I was like, no, I don't think so, because there was another time that you and I signed a contract with someone that turned out really ugly later. And we signed a contract during Mercury retrograde, and it really came back to bite us later. And so, in fact, as soon as that Mercury came out of retrograde, we were dealing with the aftermath of it. So I'm just saying that it depends. It depends. So don't ever not do something. So something presents itself to you, it's in your face, and you're like, it's Mercury retrograde, I shouldn't sign a contract, but I really want this job. Mercury retrograde, I shouldn't sign it. Okay, don't do that. Just sign the contract. Just go with it. Because Mercury might be delivering something to you. Mercury is the messenger.
Good one. Life happens.
And if you look at images of Mercury, they have the healing with the snake wrapped around it.
Oh, the caduceus.
Yeah,
in the hand.
The caduceus. So they have that in their hand, and it is meant to be that they're also a healer.
The wand of Hermes.
So remember, whatever happens during Mercury retrograde, even if it is not comfortable, like maybe a relationship comes to an end, maybe that's actually healing for you. I know it hurts now. I get it. I've had things like that happen. And it does suck when it happens. But later on, sometimes we realize that that was actually a good thing. So be prepared that whatever does happen during Mercury retrograde, that it might just also heal. Yeah.
Look for the blessings, and you'll find blessings. Look for the problems, and you'll find problems.
If you are able to get your chart and look at it, and you find Mercury in the inside, and you know how to add your transits, and you know how to add to see your transits, then what I'm going to suggest is that you get your chart and find out if Mercury is transiting anything else in your chart during the Mercury retrograde. Thank you for listening. If you would like a personal consultation with me, where we'll dive deep into your astrology chart and I'll show you what I'm doing and how I'm getting those answers, and an empowerment tool for you to also learn astrology, you can easily make an appointment with me at www.divineandrogen.com. Thanks for spreading the word. I appreciate you. I appreciate if you follow, share, comment, or any way that you can spread the word. Be sure to check out Rainbow Soul Podcast. You can easily find it on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. You can easily find all of our social media links at RainbowSoul.show. We are on most podcast platforms, including Google, Apple, and Spotify. Look us up, Rainbow Soul Podcast, putting the soul back into queer.